Hey, it's your boy Rodney Woods, Ping Global News. And I'm the host. And I got my boy next to me, Antonio Davis, all the way by way of California. Oakland,
Not the left
California. Hey,
coast.
there you go.
What's up with you, Rod? How you doing today, man?
Man, I am wonderful, brother. I'm so wonderful and blessed, man. And happy to be here, man, with some of my favorite brothers, man, that we've been traveling the United States together when we were all learning how all this worked with minority businesses and understanding capital and the access and how to do the contracts, understand the taxes and stuff. But then too, we've had some good times, right, fellas?
Easy, Rod.
Something that we can't
No,
really talk about on air, but we did have a good time.
yeah. Mike Williams, you're right there. And Doc, there's some things we can't really talk about on air today. But we had a blast, man, because all of us have been in cahoots together for a long time, understanding this minority business space, man, and trying to help others understand how they get to the next level. We always talk about how you gain access to capital or contract. But today, again, fellas, with PN Global News, I'm your host, my partner in crime, Antonio Davis, former NBA player, and we're going to introduce the rest of our partners in crime.
Yeah, we are. Rod, I always like to mention, this platform is all about educating small businesses. And like you said, today is one of those topics. I know last time I was blown away by some of the stuff that we learned, here
Yeah.
on that show. But let's start with our special guest, Rick Toussaint. I'm not going to read his whole bio, you guys, but you believe me, you would want to listen to the words that come out of his mouth. Please go grab a pen and a piece of paper because he throws nuggets kind of left and right. I don't know if Rick have ever been a point guard, but that's what it feels like to me.
No, hey, let's
Hey,
no,
we,
no,
we
no,
on the,
no,
we on the phone with a point guard. I think Mike was a point guard.
no, no. Hey, listen,
Want to be shooting guard. Yeah.
listen.
we
Not
ain't on
only
the floor. We ain't on the
right,
floor.
right.
Right.
This
Okay.
arena, you the point guard. You know what I'm saying?
All right.
But
Okay.
listen,
Well,
not
put it this
only
way: if
is Mike
Antonio
Williams,
played with me, he would average 30 if he played with me.
That's right, because you're going to drop dimes.
hey, but not only was Mike Williams that point guard, Mike still, and I want everybody to know this, Michael Williams, Dallas, Texas, born and raised, played at Baylor, played at Detroit Pistons, got his championship ring. He still holds the most consecutive free throws in NBA history.
Get
Michael
out of
Williams.
here,
What?
man.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
Still
talking
on. Yep.
about. You know what I'm
And
saying?
I
They
will
don't
say I
know.
went to the line a few times when Antonio Davis fouled me. I was looking for it when I was driving.
Well, I was doing my job, bro. I mean, I had to protect that rim. That's all I knew. Don't let nobody score. That's all I knew.
Well, they
Hey,
would love
listen.
taps then. You remember they would love taps then. Now you get suspended for 2 games. So yeah, it don't happen anymore.
Yeah. And man, listen, man, one of the youngest brothers that I had a pleasure mentoring for years, who I always said this brother here will run somewhere. I didn't know it was gonna be track. I just knew he was gonna run for somebody. Darvis Doc Patton, Mr. Olympian himself, who ran against Hussein Bolt, ran a 4x4. You ran 100 too, did you, Doc?
Hey, listen, hold on, Rodney. 4x1, 4x4. That's two.
I mean, 4x1.
Yeah, come on, man. Those are two totally different things.
You're right.
Yeah,
But listen, this brother here, when we used to have midnight basketball, AD and Mike, trying to help the kids understand a lot of things about life. And we lock them in the gym Friday and Saturday nights. And it's called midnight basketball when we had J Kidd, we had Jim Jackson, Jamal Mashburn, all of them were, like advocates and mentors, right?
Mhm.
Doc, if you told Doc, hey man, go get me a pizza, he ran and got the pizza. Hey man, go get me a cup of water, he ran and got the water. Hey,
He's working on his track skills then.
Hey, Mike, he never stopped running. I was like, man, this brother
Wow.
runs everywhere he goes. It's just like, and then he became an Olympian. Look at that.
Hey,
Darvis Doc Patton.
Congratulations.
Happy, man. Happy to be.
No, well, thanks,
Yeah,
man.
man.
We appreciate Appreciate you guys, man. As you can see, we're definitely loose here. We just like to tell it like it is. So, Rod, why don't you open us up? Let us know what we're getting into.
Yeah, man. So listen, we had part two of understanding the tax process, like AD said early on when we came on. You know, the things that Rick throw out for businesses, you know, minority business, woman-owned government, LGBTQIA, you know, chamber of commerce, or just a general business. You know, it doesn't matter, you know, what class you're in, but this tax thing is real. It's really real, and that's why we got all the fellows online. We got a couple more, you know, NBA, NFL fellows join us tonight. But just understand this tax process. And we was like, hey, how do we really protect, you know, the minority business community and general public from running from the IRS? The
Yeah.
IRS. How did and when me and AD got it all off into this the last 2 weeks ago, we was like, we got to continue this tax thing because man, a lot of us as small businesses, medium-sized business, or large cap business, that tax thing is really hard to understand, and you got to have the real subject matter experts like Rick Truson, you know, his company and other teams, you know, because taxes is a big hindrance for small businesses. And that's what we're on the call tonight to talk about.
A few weeks ago, just to recap, we talked about, just the process of making sure you get those documents together, as you move along your business. Don't wait to the end of the year to scramble trying to get documents. We talked about having the right people in place, a bookkeeper, accountant.
Yeah.
And then when you get in situations like mine, you need a tax lawyer, you know what I'm saying? So sometimes you got to have that too. But Rick talked a lot about, organization and preparation, talked about some of the things that actually go on with the IRS. We kind of called him an engineer of sorts because he was explaining how, sometimes you may have, you may owe the IRS and you can write it off on certain years. There's just a lot of things that you can do. So without further ado, let's just jump into this conversation, Rob, because I think it's one that we'll need some time to go back and forth. We want to make sure we leave some time for some questions too. And now
Absolutely.
that we got our guys with it, I'm sure they can share some personal stories also. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they got some personal stories, man. I tip my hat to Michael, because even though Michael's one of the first, as I know, one of the first athletes who really got in business, right? Because Michael was in construction at 3i Construction, and he taught me a lot of the game too. Although Rick taught me the finance game as well, but Mike taught me the business side, and we should talk like days and nights when Mike was in this game. And Mike, I want you to kind of expound on like all the challenges you've ever seen. You've been a very successful business over the years,
Yeah, I appreciate it. Well, remember, this is my 23rd year owning 3i. But, everybody thinks, just like an athlete, the only ones, and Antonio will tell you this, when you get drafted in professional sports low, every day you got to prove you can play. When you get drafted high, every day you got to prove you can't play. Would you agree with that, Antonio?
I definitely agree.
That's right. So when you're a minority firm, especially in the construction industry, every day you got to prove that you can bring value, because the industry in and of itself here in Texas, they're looking for an ex-athlete to come in, be a part of a team, that get the hell out of the way. They want you in the room, but they don't want you at the table. Now it's beginning to change, and I think the younger group that is seeing a black president and potentially seeing a black female president, all of a sudden they start taking it a little more serious to see how we can do business. But the 55 and 56 and older, at the end of the day, they want you to get the hell out of the way and go. So you got to be really, really careful on understanding. This is just in my experience, in my opinion. Rick got into the game as well with a
Yes.
subcontractor. He and I got crossways because the subcontractor was lying to him. But then he and I got together, realized that, hey, man, we see value in each other, and we built a relationship through that situation. because at the end of the day, the talent that Rick brings on the financial side is really, really needed in construction. I'll let him get into that. But with my situation, especially when you have to deal with taxes, you guys are going to love this. So when I first opened up, I was doing my taxes internally, my personal and payroll taxes. So the lady that was in my office, who I trusted, because I used to own a printing company called Global Printing, I just brought her on the construction side. She started, and it was 20 years ago, and it's okay, and I'm a humble guy. I can tell people all my war stories. She got her boyfriend started giving me documentation saying they were paying the matching tax. And what a lot of small businesses don't know, matching tax dealing with the IRS, FICA, FUTA, SUTA, and all of that, if you're not paying that matching tax, that's actually theft.
Yeah.
That's a federal violation. And people don't know that. So it's not like you're saying I'm just going to roll my losses forward in the next year for personal taxes. No, that's a matching tax that you have to pay when you're paying payroll. So they come and tell me, they say, listen, no, you owe $50,000 in match. I was like, wait a minute, what happened? So I called her to the table. Calling my office. I said, listen, I already know, but I'm going to let you tell me the truth, and I won't prosecute you. She eventually told me the truth and said that they falsified the document. So I went to go to the IRS and said, I'm going to make payments. And this is what small businesses got to learn. And I had to learn it. So I'm making these payments. I set up payments, right? $3,500 a month. And after a year, it never went down because they were only applying it to interest. So you got to say, what is the amount? And then this is the amount has to go toward principal.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, wait a minute. They were running game on me.
Yeah.
So if you don't understand when you're paying that tax, you gotta ask them as a small business, you gotta say, no, how much is going to my interest is how much is going to my principal. So then when I start paying a little extra, I would put amount for my penalty, and then I would say this is, and at the bottom of that check, I would say in the memo section, principal only. And you guys are gonna love this. So I ended up paying it all down to zero, and they still were charging me interest on interest. So I paid off my principal debt. So I'll tell any small business, don't play with IRS, especially when you're dealing with your matching tax. You have to pay that.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
And that's real, Mike and Rick. I know we've been talking about this a lot, and I know you and AD had a lot of conversations in the last session. But how do we mitigate that prior to getting into this IRS situation, Rick? And we talked about that quite a bit. What do we need to do?
Rodney, like Mike, I've been at this a long time, over 20 plus years. Okay. And the two things I think all small business owners have to realize. You need to know your attorney and your CPA day one.
Yeah.
Who is your team? That's your flex. That's who you roll with. That's your posse. First, you're the right attorney, the right CPA or tax attorney. Okay. The second, and then that CPA and that group, that financial group, they really need to function as like an interim or a fractional CFO, because you don't just need bookkeeping. You need financial advice. You need budgeting. And you have to look at your budget once a month with your finance guy in a small business, because cash flow is the critical component. Okay.
Yeah.
And then we'll probably have to have another call or another show. You need to have a plan to raise capital. I was a subcontractor to Mr. Williams, and I, dabbled in construction. And the thing I learned is the margins are so tight. And like Mike said, you have to pay taxes out of those margins. You have to make matching payroll. Guys, you have to have a plan to raise capital so you can sustain. You're in business sometimes on 90, 120-day receivables.
That's right.
And Mike, the payroll comes every week.
Every week.
Rent at the office every month. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things we have to do once we go beyond some of the tips around taxes and bookkeeping, we have to give our community the tools to raise capital. And one of the reasons why I kind of left Dallas for a while and I went to New York and spent a lot of time in Manhattan, I had to understand the critical components of raising money because it is killing otherwise very talented entrepreneurs, a lack of capital, killing their businesses, so to speak. Pardon.
Oh man, damn. Well, ain't that right, AD? Listen, Rick, you have just said it, and this is what we talk about every day. And Mike and I and Doc and all the fellas, AD, Tracy, we've always been talking about, man, how do we help these companies understand how to gain access to capital? And I know it's a whole nother segment because we're talking about taxes today. But you got to understand how to gain access, and that comes from education and knowledge and relationships, talking to people like this on this call today, right?
Right.
I mean, because let's face it. Listen, we all are in this game as an entrepreneur trying to grow his or her own business. You got to gain access to capital. It's number two things. Access to capital to let you pay for your staff, which we call human capital, or your equipment, which you got to have, like Mike got to have, or AD had to have, or Doc had to have. You know, that's it. But at the end of the day, you got to understand how this game is played. And we don't want to understand the game. So I'm going to go backwards. So we don't have enough money today to pay for a CPA.
Okay.
We don't have enough money to pay for an attorney. Right. Okay. So how do we get around that outside of joining the PN community? That's www.pncommunity.org.
I love it. That's my guy right there. That's my guy.
Yes, sir. You got to join this community so you can get educated. But y'all, listen. You got to network. You got to talk. A closed mouth will not get fed, no matter what you're going through. Right? But you got to talk. You got to get educated. And we sometimes, the prideful side of us, right, AD?
Mm-hmm. For sure.
The prideful side, Doc. The prideful side, you know, Mike, Rick. We don't want to disclose how bad IRS is messed up.
Right. I mean, I think, and I understand it, but I think at the end of the day, like you said, a closed mouth doesn't get fed. So many times we're kind of embarrassed by what we don't know when that's the time, you know. And I think the other thing that I learned real fast too was I had to surround myself with kind of people in my situation, right? If you got a small business, I got a small business, and we're kind of going through, and I can pick up the phone and I was like, man, have you ever heard of this and that and that and this? And how did you do this and this and this? And if we're bouncing that off each other, man, we created something here, you know? I mean, trying to go through that stuff by yourself, like you say, a lot of times you don't have money to get, like, you know, top-notch CPA and all these different people on your team. But in the meanwhile, if you have a platform or you have people around you who kind of are in that space, you got a brother with, you know, 20-something years of experience that you can pick up the phone or you can throw something out there, man, it saves you time, money, and energy. It really does. Yeah.
Yeah. But I also think, let me add this. You also have to know how much you cost. You may have a small business in one sector that says, okay, my general administration cost, we call it G&A, is $200,000 a year. But like when I opened my business, you guys are gonna love this story, but I opened my business from my office in my house. Mm-hmm. So what I used to do, I used to call someone, I would change my voice. Hello, this is so-and-so from 3i, and Mr. Williams would like to talk to you, right? And then I would say, I would act as though, this is the truth. I would act as if I was putting them on hold, and I put the phone down and I turned the music up. Like I had music on hold. And then I'll click over like, hey, yeah, this is Michael Williams. I'd love to come over and meet with you. But the message I'm trying to send to, and this is the truth.
I know you're telling the truth, Mike.
I'll sit that phone down and I'll act as if I had music on hold. The reality of it is there are a lot of small businesses that don't know how much they cost. So I speak at a lot of entrepreneurial conferences, and I'll say, I'll ask one question, a three-part question. I'll say, do you want to have a small business to really grow something to be a mid-sized business? which is a challenge. Do you have a small business to not have a boss?
Mm,
Do you want a small business to say, listen, I can make my own hours?
mm,
So, because if you want to start a small business and say, okay, I want to be the largest African American owned general contractor in the state of Texas, that's a different kind of challenge.
mm.
Because that means that your indirect become a lot more expensive. You got to pay for
Right.
marketing, you got to pay for accounting, you got to pay for all of these things. But if you say, you know what? I mean, one year we did $35 million in gross profit.
Wow.
But I couldn't get the jobs out. We only made $25,000 that year.
Mhm.
Hey,
One
Mike,
year,
Mike,
yeah,
you
yeah.
have to take that, Mike. Take that slow, because a lot of
Okay,
people
go
are
real
not.
slow.
Yeah, that Mike. Take that real slow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So we want the listening audience and the viewing public to understand. You had 35 million, and now
and
can you
grow.
go back for that, please?
Yeah, one year we made $35 million in gross profit, and at the end of the year, I made $25,000, and I had
Now,
more headache. And then one year we did 9.6 million. I made 800,000.
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
Mike. So listen, let's break it down, though, Mike, because we want people to understand this is about us really being transparent, 100%,
Okay,
right?
yeah. Mhm.
Right, and this is all we ever known anyway, as friends and business friends together and partners, all this other stuff. How does that happen?
Oh, that's easy. As I wanted to expand, I opened an office in Houston, San Antonio. So I wanted to expand because I never felt that at that time that Dallas was going to allow an African American owned firm to go do $100 million in one single market at that time. So what I wanted to
Right.
do was be in three different markets, and I felt I could do maybe 40 million in Dallas and San Antonio and Houston, and maybe 20 in San Antonio. So I started putting management in all of these different areas. So I got regulated instead of being in the business. I started working on the business, dealing with politics and that kind of thing. And I had bad management. At the end of the day, my management it's just it's a challenge. I remember this is a great sports example. The year before Antonio went to Indiana, we played against them when I was with Minnesota because I went to the couple. I went to the basket a lot, and they had Dale back there and they had Rick, but Rick Smith was more of an offensive player. So I knew I could get to the cup. When they brought Antonio, all of a sudden going to the basket was a little more difficult because they had two agile guys that was protecting the rim. That's the
Uh-oh.
same thing with a small business. As you start
Did
growing
we
your
freeze
business,
again? What happened?
oh, okay,
Oh my God.
okay, I'm sorry. But Antonio, remember that, and that's why
Yeah.
they started going to the finals because they had the right key players in key positions. So, like for an example, 2 years ago, we did our largest project. It was like $30 million single project. I had management and the whole deal. But what I realized, I said, you know what? Let me slow things down and let me start getting the right people. Now, what I do when I interview people, we not only do a deep dive, but now I got them taking personality tests.
Mm.
They got to do all of that before they come to 3i. And
Yeah.
I had a guy that was really, his resume was unbelievable, but his personality didn't fit my culture, my organization, and I didn't hire him.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
Mm.
so,
I,
every small business, you got to number one, decide what you want to be. Do you want to be this conglomerate? You want to do that? Then, boy, you better start really picking the right people in key positions. Like Rick said about 10 minutes ago, you better have a good CPA, a good a lawyer. You got to have a good financial group that's in front of you. But if you want to be a small business, you want to be the owner, operator, construction project manager, superintendent. You want to do a couple of projects. You don't really have to have a lot of that. You need to have a good person in your accounting, maybe business management. It's going to where you want to be. That's just in my opinion.
no, that's a great point. And I have to say out loud that that's one of the reasons why my business struggled is because, these people that I started out with
Yeah.
and started building the business with was fine. But then when I started making over $1 million in revenue, and now I got to have legal docs, I got
There
to
you
have
go.
people making calls to
Mhm.
certain people. Like I gotta have you on point every time we're on a call, and I can't be on all these different calls. That's
Hmm.
when things start falling through the cracks,
That's
right?
right.
Yep.
And at
Right.
the end of the
Yep.
day, I'm sitting up there and we're having meetings and I'm asking what is being done and all that. And then COVID hit. So now when COVID hit, I really had to change my game. Now everybody was really kind of working remotely, which was kind of crazy. You know,
they
what
want
I'm
the
saying?
same salary, by the way.
But they want the same salary, right? And we can't get that culture built. We can't have the camaraderie that we used to have because we don't really see each other. We're kind of doing this every day, and it's just not working, man. And having the right, and say that again, Mike, having the right people in the right seat is just key, because if you don't have that, then they're not an extension of you. Because as a small business, I mean, when I first started, like you said, I was in marketing, I was in accounting, I was in operations. I take it like Mike did with the phone. I would take off this hat and call this person and put this hat back on. I was just
That's right.
It was 24/7, you know. And then when you get somebody who's going to sit in that seat and wear that hat, if they're not wearing it like you, bro, you get stagnant. Then you got to come back and do double the work, because now you got to go back and fix what they did and then do it the right way. So that is a key message for anything. And now that we're talking about taxes too, when you get to that point, no matter who it is, like, this person has to be on point. They can't be somebody like you said, Mike, who say they're paying this tax and they're not paying it, right?
That's right.
They got to be paying it, and they got to be reporting to you and showing you receipts and everything else that was actually paid. You know what I'm saying? Right. Your bookkeeper have to meet with you every month, like Rick was saying, right?
Yeah.
And the thing that I learned about that too is the reason they meet. What I found out is in transportation, the thing that I know is it's not about how much you make, it's about how much you can keep. Like Mike said, I made all this money and I only kept 25,000 for myself, right? And you pay for what you don't know, right? Because I'm not a lawyer, so I got to pay for that lawyer. I'm not a CPA, so I got to pay for that CPA. You pay for what you don't know. So what I learned is, like you said, Mike, I gotta grow slowly. Like, even if I just want to do a couple projects, I gotta do them things and I gotta perfect it. I gotta make sure that I know my costs inside and out, how much cash flow I'm going to need on a quarterly basis, a yearly basis, or whatever that is. I got to factor in all these expenses and taxes, and like, there's just so much going on. So when you ask the question, are you in this just because you don't want a boss or you want to set your own hours or all that? You better be careful what you ask for, because I was working 80 hours a week. And like you said, at the end of the year, if you do that all year and you look up and you got 25 grand, you're like, man, what am I doing?
You want to hurt somebody, man.
Antonio, you look up and you'll have no hair.
It'd be real shallow up there, you know what I mean?
Hey, Mike, I ain't seen the bald head. I mean, I thought when I last saw you had hair, Mike. You really did.
I had about that much.
Hey, man, it'll do it to you.
Hey, man, we look up here, man. We look at the young fella Doc up there, man. He got his gray beard now. I can't even see him with a gray beard.
Up then up top. Do y'all mind if I ask a question real quick?
No, good, Doc. Good.
In regards to small business, maybe think about it, because Ada, you said something. You pay for what you don't know, right? In regards to finding, I guess, a proper bookkeeper, a proper CPA, a proper business lawyer, tax lawyer, what are the steps to find the right person? Because if you don't know what you don't know, then how do you know how to evaluate someone that best suits your business? So how do one
join Penn Global News, which you are a part of? Penn Community, www.penncommunity.org.
We asked this. No, we asked this last show though, and I'm gonna let Rick answer that, because Rick had some real nuggets with this one too. Rick, can you answer that question for us?
Yeah, certainly. So, Doc, one of the things, CPAs, most CPAs are going to be registered. Obviously, they're going to be registered with individual states, and every state has a licensing board for the CPA. So you can look up CPAs from the state licensing board in your area Okay. And do it. You can go online, you can call, find 3 to 5 guys, and you interview them the same way you'd interview an employee. Also, talk to your banker. Your banker who has your business account. Bankers are going to know CPAs and accountants. And also on a national level, the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, AICPA, they're going to be a great resource to find qualified individuals with 4-star, 5-star ratings in your area. Okay. Mm-hmm. And what you want to know is your CPAs, we're licensed by the state. We have a code of conduct, a code of behavior. So as we conduct business with you, we have a standard that you can hold us to. And if the CPA steps out of line with your finances, if there's a question of propriety, you can bring up a complaint to the licensing board. That keeps us in check. Okay. Nice. But your banker and the state certification board, that's where I would start.
Mike, let me ask another question. So for a small business, let's just say I'm a small business starting out. Would you say my biggest thing right there is I just need a bookkeeper at that point? Or what do I need to start off with? I guess is my question.
It's always, AD, it's a couple things. I always tell people, sometimes in business, don't let what you don't have stop you from doing what you need to do. But you must be aware and be cognizant of the fact that you're going to have a bookkeeper. If you're in business and you're going to generate somewhere around $1 million a year, $500,000, okay, or more, please get a basic bookkeeper, QuickBooks, Great Plains Accounting. Okay. At the end of the year, when it's time to select your CPA, please, guys, have a meeting before the taxes are due. Sit down with your CPA, because they're only going to know what you open up and speak with them about. Yeah. You may have Mr. Williams, you can attest to this. You may have purchased equipment on the job site. There are capital, there are deductions, depreciation available to you as a business owner. We don't always know what's transpired in your business. So you have to sit down and talk, and you plan with your CPA before you file your taxes. Okay. Yeah. This way we can give you the best service, and we can find the proper loopholes, legal tax loopholes, to mitigate any fees you're going to owe at the end of the year. You really got to bring that CPA, that bookkeeper, into your life. You got to bring them into the fold, and you got to communicate with them.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, well, let me add to that. It says your organization develops. What Rick said is 100% right. But you also got to know what sector of the industry you're in. Like, for an example, if you are a retail and you're selling, clothing, you may have a different CPA than I would, because I look for a particular construction CPA. I look for a construction attorney, because they know the different laws. I mean, for an example, everybody got upset with Trump when he was running the first, and they were saying, listen, you hadn't paid taxes. And he said, well, that made me smart. And everybody going, oh, that's bad, that's bad. No, he carried his losses forward. Right. So you got to have people that understand that, because if you don't know that, my first CPA was a person that was really good when I first started out. But as I started developing and generating more income, and I really love her. I mean, we still have a great relationship. But I knew she couldn't take me where I wanted to go, because she used to say, well, construction is on the accrual basis. When you filing for all your bonding and stuff, everything's on accrual basis. So I was paying tax, I was paying my bonuses, I was paying my taxes on my accrual. But you may have accrual saying that XYZ owe you $1 million. That on the accrual basis, that's income. But on the cash basis, you haven't received that money.
You haven't received that money, right?
Yeah. So she was telling me, no, you owe $1 million in taxes. I'm like, no, I don't. Well, you made this on an accrual basis. I said, you know what? Time out. I'm gonna have to cut you. Because I had to get me a construction CPA. You have to understand that.
No, I had that, and I have to say this, I had that same thing too. So when I got into transportation, it was different, because I had a factoring company. I was factoring my invoices.
Oh yeah.
And I had this freaking accountant and she kept using the term cost of goods sold, which I understood what that was. But I'm like,
Yeah.
honey, I'm not selling a good. That's confusing to me. Can you break that down? Because I'm providing a service. Can you break that down for me so that I understand what cost of goods sold mean, what this means, and what that means? And when she couldn't really understand my business, she couldn't break it down. So I had to go find a CPA that had done some transportations,
That's right.
bookkeeping and stuff before.
That's right.
Listen, you know what's really good, man, and what's so profound is like we talk about this all the time. You know, and Mike, I know you and I talk about it. Rick, we talk about it a lot. But when you're in certain industries, you have to line up with your industry.
There
Right.
you
You
go.
really
That's
do.
great. That's great.
Yeah,
Right.
you have to line up, and that's why when we built Penn, you know, we had to line up the industries because everybody's in a different industry. Every industry doesn't work for the next industry. Oil and gas doesn't work for widgets, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Construction doesn't work for marketing, you know,
That's
in
right.
a sense, right? You need all those tools. You know, you need to market, advertise, social media. But when it comes to the actual how you monetize it, that's a whole different game.
So
You're right.
That's all different. So you got to line up. You have to line, and that's why we always talk about. That's why we always advocate, and we always continue to say, work in your industry, network in your industry, meet the people in your industry, meet the CPAs, the lawyers, and everybody who has an expertise in your industry. Don't go get an oil and gas guy when you're in construction. No.
Right. Yeah.
That's right. You're 100% right.
or
Yeah.
retail, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm
And I
making
want
clothes,
every
but
small business,
these clothes are made out of oil. No, it's not.
and I'm telling every small business owner, if you're really serious about your business, don't get your cousin Ray to do your taxes.
Please stop that. Yes.
Stop that.
Yes.
Yeah, don't get Lisa because she took accounting in college. No, go get experts in that field because it's so important that can be the killer of a great company.
Yeah.
You can start out and you just don't pay the taxes, man. When the IRS coming after you, they're not playing.
We're not
They're
playing.
coming,
Yeah,
and they don't care.
they really do, man. And I
Hey,
think it's
listen,
just important
fellas.
that we continue to talk about these kind of things because those are the pitfalls of small businesses. Obviously, taxes is one of them, but as
Yeah.
we're talking now, there's so many different pitfalls out there. We don't want you working hard and not making money because you didn't have the information, you didn't have the knowledge. So please, please, please get that.
I
Rod,
mean,
you got to say something?
yeah. So, man, we added another one of our young power brothers from Dallas, Damon Robinson, former NFL player, my young mentee, fraternity brother, old nine. Also, you got Doc up there, your frat, also, bro. But
Let's go
Dame
to
is
the trash stuff, man. Get up out of here with that. Nobody
so look, hey, Dame was running around the country early on with T Mac,
Okay.
learning the game with Doc and all them too, understanding how does this minority business thing work, right? And
Yeah.
now coming fast forward full circle, here we all are again trying to educate the public on how all this works because we all have been through it. You know, we've been through it so many times over and over and over. And it's not like we don't know, but we have to have subject matter experts like Rick and others. And Mike is a subject matter expert in construction, and AD, you're in transportation. So it's warranted for all of you ladies and gentlemen to understand this is why we're doing what we do is to educate you and turn you around and get you to the next level because you want to take care of your family and friends as well, but they also got to be educated on how to take care of your business as well.
That's right. That's right.
You
I
know?
think the next level of that, Rod, and we always kind of run out of time, but what I do want
No, man. Dang it.
what I do want to jump into though is being audited, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm actually being audited right now.
Oh man.
It is.
May you rest in peace.
I will say I would give myself about a B minus in the prep part, and I would say an A just because there was some things that she asked for that was kind of scattered. Like I was trying to develop a system because in transportation, sometimes it's a load. So that means it's a transaction, and I can have 300-400 transactions sometimes in a couple weeks. So I had to have this paperwork kind of lined up, and usually I would line it up and then put it into this Google Drive, right? But this particular, I think we did a project. It was over like 3 or 4 months. I didn't have all that paperwork kind of put together because it just happened so fast. It like dropped in my lap, and we was just running, trying to, it was one of the things every time I'm moving some transformers or something, because down there like we have now, there's storms and hurricanes, and the city was shut down, and they needed these transformers. They called us up, and I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but we moved, we moved them, right, and got paid. So, but anyway, I talk about that, and I guess Rick, will go back to you, but I guess I wanted to just start talking about some of the mistakes that high earners, whether it's athletes or whatever's, make, as far as incorrect deductions, maybe misreporting some income, or keeping track of multiple revenue streams. How can they kind of manage that so that it doesn't, you're not in this situation where you're getting audited, because you never know why you got audited, I don't think. I mean, they give you kind of, hey, we saw this, it didn't look right, but can you just talk about kind of making sure that you're accounting for whatever they're looking for?
Okay. So there's a few things here, and I'm always I'm gonna sound like a broken record. So let's assume we have our bookkeeper in place.
Okay.
Let's assume we have our CPA who works with our bookkeeper. Okay.
Right. Mm-hmm.
You have certain transactions and line items in your business and on your tax return that can trigger a review. Home office deduction, too much travel, too much meals and entertainment, too many things like that.
The Schedule C's, right, Rick? That's all your Schedule C's, right?
So it's Schedule C's, and also if you're a full doc corporation like a S Corp or a C Corp, you're still going to have those same line items, okay?
Correct.
Again, guys, this is why you sit and plan with your CPA. Let them know the nature of your activities during the year. And what's critical is learn to work with your CPA to create a methodology where you take some of your personal expenses and make them legitimate business expenses. But this requires planning. There are trips you can take, continuing education, even if it's in Hawaii, even if it's overseas with your wife and family. A portion of that trip can be written off, okay? But your home office, there are allocations, but it's imperative you plan and just spend some time once or twice a year before the tax return is filed.
Nice. We were talking about filing deadlines and all that kind of stuff too, and trying to avoid paying some of those penalties. I know that I ran into this deadline that just passed. Can you talk about just making sure that you still file those? Like sometimes people miss the deadline. They're like, oh, well, shoot, I'll get it next year. I'll make sure I file.
Yeah, you got to have your CPA file an extension.
Yeah.
So Mike is right. We have to file an extension. We need to know if we're a month out, we don't have all our paperwork, that deadline is coming. Let's go ahead and get the extension filed. Okay. Number 2, make it a priority, guys. I know you're running your business. You're trying to pay your bills. You're taking care of your family. One of the best ways to take care of your family is take care of your financial business. Pay your taxes. Let's be ahead of the game. You protect that, you're protecting your family. It's got to become a priority. It is like working out. We can't say we don't have time to work out because the cost of not working out. Same thing with the dealing with your taxes and making that time to meet with your financial professionals. You better find the time. Okay.
What about charitable contributions? Like, do they have to be documented a certain way, or do you need a form for whoever whatever our organization you contributed to?
Right. So many times, if it's a church or a nonprofit, they're going to have like a federal legal status, like 501c3, and I think it's 501(6) or 503.
Yeah, six. Yeah.
Yeah, 6. That's right. They're going to bring, and they're going to have a process in place with documentation where they provide you with receipts with their EIN. Okay,
Mhm.
so this legitimizes the deduction, and you're typically fine. So you match the amount of money with the receipts from the nonprofit. But then, AD, even with that requires planning. Let's say you have a great year, you hit this big signing bonus as an athlete or an entertainer, and you want to be overly generous. Sometimes there's a phase out. You need to plan how much you can give, because you don't want to give so much where you don't get the deduction. It gets phased out. You want to maximize the deduction. Even that requires planning. Even doing good or trying to do good, you still need to plan the amount of money you want to give to organizations and people.
Mhm.
This is giving me a headache, bro. Like I wish I would have
Yeah,
known. You know,
and I
wish
know,
would've known.
and most of all of us have had a foundation. D-Rob, I know you had a foundation. You had Mike had one. I know Dame had one. I know Doc. All of us have had foundations, right? But what Rick is expounding on is the planning is really critical. Because at the end of the year, you find yourself owing a lot of money, even in your foundation. You've been funding it
Right.
all these years. You've been funding, and it's still not going to help you. And that goes for the athlete container. That goes for the business unit who believes in something, want to put money in something, right? But it's not going to work if you don't plan it right and you don't properly get the right information that you need to make that happen.
No, absolutely. That's correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we don't have a lot of time. Damien, do you have some insight on maybe experience that you may have had tax wise that you can kind of share with us?
Well, it's kind of funny. We talking about the foundation was the perfect spot because I put a foundation together dealing with at-risk youth and kids in the inner city, and I didn't know what I was doing. I just went and got the 501(c), but I didn't have no structure to it. You know what I mean? I'm putting the money into it, the money behind it, and I did it for 9 years. You know what I mean? And I ended up getting audited because, you know what I mean? And it was just on the homeboy, homegirl hookup of doing the taxes part.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I was trying to do the right thing. But I think that's a big thing that, you guys are touching on. We want to do good things, but nobody's giving us the structure or the information to structure it properly.
Right.
And
Appreciate that.
we can do that. We can do great things.
Yeah. Hey, Damien and AD, that you got to remember this, guys. The tax laws were written for business owners and the wealthy. It's actually an asset to you if you understand the tax laws.
That's right.
It's a big asset. One of the greatest flexes, financial flexes, is having a small business. Okay, if you understand the tax laws, it is an asset. This is why it's imperative to get the right people you can trust, because now you look at it as you're spending money to pay for this person. We'll just pick on me. Hey, I'm paying Rick XYZ. You may pay me 10 grand. I'm bringing you 50 or $100,000 worth of value, though. Okay, because I understand where these loopholes benefit you as an individual business owner and your business, and we have to understand it's value creation. This is why you have to write it. Go ahead, David.
How many people we got to go through to get to a good Rick? You know what I mean? You might have lost 10,000 about 3 times. To a good Rick, you know what I mean? So, if we can find some good Ricks from the forefront, that would definitely help out a lot.
You know, Damien, in all honesty, you're correct. And this is why I think Penn and what we're doing right here tonight is so important. Guys, we have to support each other and lift each other up in our community. And even if it's small business, I have to support you. I have to be available for you and share what I know. You share what you know, and we start moving forward in our culture. We can't we can't continue to operate in a silo and every one of us trying to be the big man, when in reality, we need each other's expertise. and presence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
And it's got to
I
be a
want to read
cultural
something,
shift, Damien. Yeah.
and that's so true. And we always advocate, AD. I know, man, I hate when we're running out of time, but I want to read something from Robin Elliott, good friend of mine who played in the WNBA out in Indiana. My accountant has continually advised me that the tax code is an asset for small businesses. He says it's almost criminal to not have a small business, jokingly,
Mhm.
but it really is. And Robin's so right, and Robin, thank you for that. But if we don't come together and ask the questions and gel together and build this community to help every other community get uplifted, have a social impact, create jobs. We're the lost. And I don't mean just us as black folks. I mean, period, across the board. I mean, truly across the board. It doesn't have anything because it's a situation now where you still have the influence, as we talk about, to do so much good, change the game because of who we are, who you are, what you represent, how you represent Oakland, AD, how you represent Dallas, Dame, and Mike, Doc, Rick, how you represented, Louisiana. But we're not doing it, and we have to start somewhere, and that's just what it's that. That's what it is.
I want to get back to a comment that Damien made too. It's like, I think when you first starting out and you don't know and you're trying to get the hookup because it is expensive, we
Yeah.
talk about like fractional, professionals, right?
Yeah.
Fractional CEOs, fractional account. Like you can get, big time knowledgeable, like Mike said, understand your business first and what you actually need, and then you may need a fractional person to come in and just kind of lend their expertise, whether it's once a month or every quarter. Just, hey, just check and see that I got all my stuff in place. That's value right there, without really having to spend a ton of money, right? You're buying some hours from them to just kind of look over your stuff, and it's not just killing your pocket, right?
Right.
Like, because if we don't do that, then you end up like like Damien said, I got to spend 10, 20, 30,000 just to get to the right person. Like for all this crap, I got to pay that just to get to the top of the expensive guy who's on. Like if I'd have gave him that 30 from jump, I'd have been straight. Right?
Well, I want to say this. I know I missed a little bit of conversation earlier, but asking you guys, because y'all were before me. Nobody has ever told us how to structure our team as coming in as a professional. I'm talking about an athlete or business. We find it out by ourselves. You know what I mean? Of course, in your time, Tonio, Rodney, Mike, you were dealing with the white agents that kind of gave you your team. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When I came along, we kind of still had the same situation, but we kind of branched out on doing our own thing a little bit. And now, it's really wide open. But nobody has told nobody how to structure their team coming out the box. You know what I mean? Because my dad was my first money manager, which he did a great job, but
it was your dad.
He's about saving the money. He wasn't about spending nothing. No risk. We ain't spending nothing. You know what I mean? So, he knew how to do that. And he kept taxes paid and things like that. But I'm just saying, I think that's a big thing that we really need in our community is telling our people how to structure their teams, structure their businesses, coming out the gate. You know what I mean? I think that's a very major point that we need to take.
Dan, I'm so happy that you said that because you've been around us for a long time and we've been, challenging and championing what you just said. We got to learn how to structure our team. That's why, and kudos to T-Mac and all of you guys for, supporting us on building Penn because that's why we built it. We want to be able to help, individual businesses, athlete entertainers, young entrepreneurs understand how to structure a team, right? Capital, when you raise money, and Mike and Rick and you Dame, and I mean you AD and Damon, you guys know money is only for two things: It's for your human capital, the people that you're going to pay that's a good person to help you scale that business and grow that business, right? Or it's for your equipment. And that's what we're
Yep.
trying to advocate. That's what we're trying to champion. That's what we're challenging. It's only for those two things. If we get that right, oh man, you talking about closing the wealth gap? Oh, we can do it.
No, for
We can close the
sure.
wealth gap.
Let's
Yeah,
let's
we can
do
close
this
the
in
wealth gap.
closing. Mike, can you give us, since you know you've been in this industry for a long time, and you talked a little bit about your team when you first started, but if you were to go back today, because you know, as an athlete, okay, we need a trainer, we may need a nutritionist, we may need, you know, certain things, an agent, right? But can you just give us a small summary of, if you were that same business starting out now with what you know, going back then as a small construction company, what would be the 2 or 3 initial people that you would have to have in order to start that business?
Rick said best, but because we're the building business of building things, you have to. In my industry, you got to have a good builder.
Okay.
You know, when I played, and you met Tom Shine. I tell people all the time I was the fourth guard in a 3-man rotation when I was
Yeah.
on the Detroit Pistons. So you know, I had Joe Dumars, Vinny Johnson, and Isaiah Thomas. But I had 2 goals as an athlete. And I mentioned earlier, when you get drafted, I got drafted 2nd round by the Detroit Pistons. That was in the championship the year before. Every day I had to prove that I could play. So I used to tell the other rookie, Dennis Dembo, I said, the first thing I want to know if I can play in the league. I gotta get on the floor.
Right.
I gotta get on the floor. And
Right.
I equate that to small business, but I have to get on the floor to see if I can play. And if I can't play, you know, I went through Baylor's business school, you know, I made all academic and all that. So I had job offers coming out. So I said I'll just go work. But then when I got an opportunity to play in Indiana, right before you came, I played with Dell and that group, Reggie Miller. I got a chance to start. And then I started working during the off season. I worked at Logo 7 with Tom Chan. I think you did the same thing. And then I took that approach to Minnesota. I worked at a construction company during my time in Minnesota. So when I retired, I'd already been acclimated to construction, but it's different in doing something over summer and paying them bills, paying that G&A, paying them the human capital. That money is coming out of your pocket.
Right.
So if you ask me, what would I have done differently? Number one, I wouldn't have started my business from scratch. I would have, because I had a little cash at the time, I would have bought an existing business.
Oh yeah.
That's what I would have done. I would have bought an
Yeah.
existing business
Yeah.
because they already had a market share.
Yeah.
But I didn't. But the number one person I had to, on my team is get a builder and get somebody to work my finances. I had to have those 2 things in place. Now, those 2 people reported to me every day, every week. It was my meeting. Every month, it was my meeting. I looked at every contract. I was out on every job. And I got to know this group called Austin Industry. And the chairman of the board, Ron Gafford, wanted me to go out of town with him. And I said, man, I got to do my job walks. I got to do this. He looked at me, he said, Mike. And I had my VP operation, who really was a good senior PM. He said, you can get another PM. He can't get another one of you. I said, what do you mean? Somebody that can go get business, that can be in those rooms, that sit at the table. And what I did, I started working on my business and I started putting people in place one by one. Now, as my organization began to grow, that group that was with me then wasn't the group that was with me 3 years from now. Matter of fact, there was another large company said, Mike, you got a lot of turnover. And I looked at him, I was talking to that board. I said, yeah, because that group that was doing $5 million a year is not the group that can do $20 million a year.
Yeah.
So you got to continue to grow your people and grow your business. And if the people those human capital people that you have on your staff, if they don't want to grow, you got to cut them. You got to get rid of them. So that would be the 1 or 2 things that I would put in place for any small business.
No, thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. Well, Rod, here we go, coming to the end of another episode.
All right.
It goes by so fast, and I think it does. And Damien alluded to it too. Sometimes you just don't know. You don't know what you don't know.
You don't know
And
what you're
that's why we're, you know, creating PIN so that there is less of what you don't know. You don't know because you didn't join PIN and you didn't come in and have these great conversations with people in your industry who've already created business, who've
Yep.
already gained capital, who already went through an audit, we've already done all of that. We've made those mistakes so you don't have to. So
Yep.
joining this community, make sure that you're a part of whatever industry you're in, and don't make these same mistakes.
Yeah,
All right.
so look, again, Rick, thank you so much, man. This was part 2, you know, of understanding the taxes and not running from the IRS. You
Right.
know, always, Mike, a pleasure, man. Thank you so much. Dane, thank you so much. I know Doc had to get off, and I think Dane Williams joined and he kept freezing. But thank all you guys. AD, you know, man, much love to you, bro, and to our partners, you know, T-Mac, and all the others who believed in what we were building at Penn. You know, thank all of you, and then our sponsors, you know, at Foot Snap, and oh my God, Burdock's.
Oh my God.
Hey, look here,
All right.
Burdock's.
Rod
Burdock.
talked about how beautiful he looked with this skin stuff. Mike, you should see him. He got the skin stuff on and all this crap. And then he gets to the end and he don't know the name. I'm like, come on, Rod.
Hey, man. You know, look at we ain't follow the script, man, because we real about what we talk about, right? But Burdock soap, man, I'm gonna give all of y'all a bar of Burdock stuff.
All
It's
right, I gotta get
unbelievable.
that.
Hey, listen, it take all the black marks, all the spots off of you. Unbelievable.
All right.
Well, man, listen to our team, though, really. Thank you so much. To the viewing audience and the listening public, thank you all so much. And hopefully, man, all of you ladies and gentlemen will start a network. Don't sit around and just think that you know you're gonna get it. Closed mouth just don't get fed. So just do the right thing. Get up every day, take care of yourself. Cell phone take care of you. But network, you know.
Right.
So just keep it going. So Penn Global News, we'll see you guys every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Central Time, 9 p.m. East Coast Time, and for the West Coast, for the big fella out there, 6 p.m. Central Time.
All right, y'all be good.
All right.
All right. Thank you, brother.
Take care.
Take care now.